video built down our excitement suddenly? Let's not keep anybody waiting. And finally, proceeding further, let's talk about the guest and author herself, Ms. Sangeeta ma'am. Sangeeta ma'am is a chief financial officer turned business leadership coach. Her purpose is to serve leaders and teams to shine and succeed. She's on a mission to enable, empower, and elevate businesses and individuals. She has a rich corporate experience of 25 years, including leadership positions with multinationals. An independent director and a TEDx speaker, Sangeeta ma'am, is a chartered accountant as well as management accountant and has completed an executive education program from Harvard Business School. She is a credentialed coach from International Coaching Federation, business advisor, professional speaker, and author to a few of the bestseller books. Today, ma'am has blessed us with her presence with regards to her book, Where's the Mullah? A business book for maximizing financial growth. I request ma'am to kindly give us a summary of her book and give us an insight to what inspired her to write. Please welcome ma'am with a round of applause.
Thank you very much, Manya, and thank you, Prakash and Pankaj, for organizing this along with Indra's School of Business Studies. Thank you, Dr. Komal. Thank you, Dr. Chetan. It was lovely. I feel so warm, and I know I'm just overwhelmed with all your wishes. Beautiful video as well. So thank you. It's an absolute delight and pleasure to be here with all of you. So to answer your question, Manya, what inspired me? Well, I'm actually an accidental author, and Where's the Mullah happens to be my fourth book. My first book, which is Glance of the Unknown, was actually a fiction. And when I started telling people that, I've written a book, everybody assumed it to be a finance book because, finance professional, CFO with many years of experience, they started asking me, where is the finance book? So I had to go ahead and write a finance book. So that's where I wrote What's the Finance, which went on to becoming a bestseller. And since I'm also into high performance, I wrote about Get High, which is how to coach yourself for high performance in whatever work that you're doing. And it was at that stage that I think Sage Publishers, who are the publishers of Where's the Mullah, they approached me and they said, why don't you write a book for us? And, it was just at the start of the pandemic. So they said, you're a business coach, you have a finance background. So considering this, how is it that you can help businesses to, see what can be done? So actually, I would give the credit to them for seeding this thought into me, which is what went on to me getting started with Where's the Mullah. And here I am in front of all of you. So that is the background to the book. And like I will be taking you through in depth during the session today. So what I've done is, I realized businesses were all struggling, especially, even pre-pandemic, yes, a lot of businesses were struggling, having a lot of challenges and, wondering how can I really grow my business? And of course, when the pandemic started, we all know what happened. So many businesses were affected very badly. So what is it that businesses can do, right? You could be a business leader, you could be an entrepreneur, however big, small, whichever industry, you need to be taking some action to save your business and grow it further. So what are the things that can be done? So that is what this book is about. And also to see how, cash is king, like we know, for a business. So how can they manage the cash flow better? Because many times I've noticed the businesses could be doing really well, but the cash becomes a constraint, because of poor cash management, poor financial management. Many businesses tend to even shut shop. In fact, if you look, I think that's one of the key reasons why many businesses fail, because of poor cash management. So I said, how can I bring all this together and see how I can contribute for businesses to how they can grow further despite these challenges? And that's what made me write Where's the Mullah.
Thank you so much, ma'am. That was really very insightful, because that is something very different from what we hear when we ask what inspired you. So that was very interesting. I would request you to follow up and start your session now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So let me take you through a few aspects of the book, and we can see how you can actually start making practical sense, because this book, what the objective of me writing this book again was to make it very simple, right? So everybody can understand, relate. I didn't want to give any gyan, but make it very practical to say, you know, this is the particular challenge. This is what you should do to overcome it. What are the mistakes you need to watch out for? And I also interviewed few of the senior corporate leaders and, you know, very successful entrepreneurs to get their insights, their perspectives on how they go about, you know, the various challenges a business has. Right. So with that brief introduction, let me ask you all something. Now, this was again a real life example. So, client of mine, you know, like most people, this particular client was also saying, all I want for my business is growth. Now, growth is something common everybody wants. But what does growth actually mean to the business? Right? It could vary because there's no standard answer. It could mean different things to different people. Of course, the common ones are when you say growth, people talk about top line growth and bottom line growth. So that is kind of a given. But growth could also mean many different things. For example, it could mean being debt free, growing the number of branches, or, you know, if it's a headcount intensive, you may be wanting to grow the number of headcount in the business. So it can mean different things to different people, or simply just being cash positive. So what does growth mean to your business, right? So that is something you need to ask and define that for the business, because once you know what growth is all about, what is the kind of growth that you're looking for the business, it gives you a lot of clarity and helps you in your decision making and taking the right actions to drive and navigate your business towards that. So I'm curious to know if any of the students are, you know, having their own startup or having their own business or any entrepreneurial venture. I would be quite keen to know if anybody, maybe you can raise your hands. I would love to know if anybody is doing something on their own. Anybody? Okay, all right. So nonetheless, if
Sangeeta, these all are first year students, so we might not be exactly having entrepreneurs here.
Yeah. Okay. No worries. I was just curious to know. But nonetheless, if you have the entrepreneurial streak in you, or you know, later on you go on and getting yourself into a lovely job, you would know where to focus and, you know, what needs to be done. So I'm just going to throw some insights on what you know, businesses need to do. So before I proceed further, I'd like to hear from you all. Tell me, why does a business exist? However big, however small, whichever industry, whichever vertical, whichever domain, why does a business exist? Anybody, you can post in the chat box or unmute yourself. What are your thoughts there?
I think best would be if they start quickly writing the answers in the chat box. That would be ideal.
Sure.
Yeah, here we are.
To help.
Okay.
To make profits. Yes, exactly. That's the one that I was looking for. Well done, Shreya Jain. Yes. And I think even Sakshi got it right. Yeah, earning profits, right. Absolutely. I'm really delighted that you guys got this right. While all the answers are correct, but one thing, you know, everybody needs to make note of is a business exists to make money. Simply because, you know, you can have passion, you may want to help people, you can have so many different things, but you can do that in a charity as well. But if you're running it as a business to grow, yes, you can grow even in charity, right, Kirti? But if you're running it as a business, the differentiating factor, yes, is to make money, to make profits and ensure the business is growing. So a business, you can be extremely passionate. You may be wanting to do so many different things, be innovative, creative, help your customers. All that is absolutely right? But the differentiating factor between a charity and a business is the money or the moolah, like we say. So that's exactly why a business exists. Now, what I also noticed is, you know, related to the growth, yeah, to create a goodwill, all that, yes, definitely to build a brand. There are many reasons, but the root cause is to make money, unless you are a charity. So a business, what I have realized is, you know, remember we just spoke about growth. Growth can mean different things. And People want to make it big. All that is a given thing. But what are the financial goals that a business has? Now, when I seem to ask this question, many businesses were not very clear. If at all the goal was like, I need to grow my top line 2x, 3x, 5x, whatever, or my bottom line, it was just that. But how does one really go about formulating the right financial goals? So I'm an acronym person. I love sharing acronyms because the recall value is higher. And therefore, the acronym I'd like to share for setting your financial goals, you can use this in your personal financial goals as well, is, how many of you like cartoons? You would like the cartoon Tom and Jerry? Yes, yeah. So just, yes, remember Tom as the acronym, right? And what does it stand for? T stands for the time frame. Now, even if you want to grow your, say, top line or bottom line, what is the time frame that you're looking at? What is it you want the business to accomplish in during the short term, medium term, and long term? So set yourself a time frame, because without a time frame, your financial goals is meaningless. So set the time frame. O stands for the objectives. What are the objectives that you want to achieve? Yes, if you want to grow your top line, what are the things that you need to do, right? How are you going to go about it? What sort of strategy do you want to adopt to ensure the business is growing? So, and what is really propelling you? Is it that you want better market share? Do you want better profits? Or do you want to, get more customers? What really is the objective of you wanting to fix this? So T is your time frame, O is your objectives, and M is the measure. How are you measuring the progress? Because you can have all this, and then, is it just that you have a long-term goal and then end of 4th year, you wake up and say, oops, I need to do. So there needs to be periodic progress. So, and for you to measure, that's when it's going to give you clear insights, clarity on how you're headed towards the goals that you want to achieve. So setting your financial goals is something that's extremely important. So remember, T for time frame, O for objectives, and M for the measure. So by setting that, you know which way you would like to go ahead. So what I've also done in the book is I have divided the business I called the business as a business wheel, right? So each business has different functions, right? So if you were to predominantly look, I hope you can share my screen. So this is the business wheel that I speak of. So if you look at a business has people. It has customers, operations, finance, technology, marketing, suppliers, and strategy, right? So these are like the 8 different spokes of the business wheel, and all of these have to move and propel ahead. Only then the vehicle of your business can keep moving. Otherwise, the business can get stuck. So all these are very important aspects of the business that will help the business to move ahead. So that's what this book is all about, right? So I have spoken about these 8 different functions, on the role they play, and what are the different hacks that each of these functions can do so that it contributes to better business profitability, right? So I'll just take you through and touch upon few of them so you get an idea and a flavor of how the business wheel functions. Before I proceed, let me also give you a little real life story. Now, one of these business houses, they were finding a lot of cash crunch. They were under a lot of pressure, stress from the shareholders for better financial performance. And what happens? Now, the management normally tends to go in for the low-hanging fruits. So in this case, what did they want to do? They said, okay, let's cut the people cost. So what happened? It was like a ripple effect. So the first thing, they started trying to, cut the number of people, the employees. What did that result in? The rest of the employees who were there, they started to feel very insecure. And because of this insecurity, they were not giving their very best because they felt, oops, it could be me tomorrow. I may be asked to leave. And therefore, they were not giving their very best to whatever role that they were playing. Not only that, when the best employees are not paid whatever they deserve, then the best ones would tend to leave, right? Because you feel you're worth a particular amount in the market, and if that's not happening to you, the best employees would tend to leave the organization. And then the business went on to extreme cost-cutting measures. Obviously, the employees started feeling very anxious about their future, the future of the business. Why are they being so tight and harsh on the business? And then what happened? Some of the employees were asked to leave. Of course, they were unhappy because some of them were long timers as well. They went on to put some legal case, right? And of course, that costed the company the legal costs. It drained their time and effort. Of course, it was not being productive, and the business operations also started getting affected. Now, they also tried negotiating hard with the suppliers, and because of this hard negotiation, the quality from the suppliers started to dip, and in turn, their customers were unhappy. They didn't want to spend on marketing because they felt, again, it's a cost, and therefore they couldn't attract bigger customers. They didn't want to invest in technology, and the operations processes started getting slower. So if you look at this whole cycle, right, simply because they wanted to cut costs, now all the aspects of the business started getting affected. And that's what happens, my friends. Many times when we think, let's just go ahead and cut costs, because we feel that's the easiest way to do, right? And if you overly start burdening the business by just cutting costs without thinking rationally, then the business tends to suffer. Cost cutting is important, it is essential, but doing it in the right planned manner is what will make the difference. So, if in each of these functions of the business wheel that I spoke about, what are some of the things that a business can actually do, right? So that's what we are going to look at, and let's deep dive a little bit. So let me start off with HR, right? Because I always believe that each business, people are the biggest asset of any business. In fact, when I went to Glasgow in Scotland, right, I saw huge banners that said, people make Glasgow. And I thought that's so true for a business as well, because end of the day, for a business, it's the people who actually make your business, right? Because they are the ones who are performing, they're the ones who are deciding, decision making, they're negotiating, getting you the customers, everything. So every aspect of the business is actually people driven, right? So let me just share my screen again. And this is the HR business wheel, the human resources business wheel, on what actions can be taken better for better business profitability from a HR or the people perspective. So like you notice, I have divided this business wheel of HR into primarily 4 aspects from a finance perspective, because this entire book pivots on finance, right? Because like I said, we know it's financial growth hacks for better business profitability. So if you look at the people function, there are predominantly 4 areas. One is your rewards and recognition, and then how the people are being productive, what sort of investment is required from a people perspective, and of course the cost. So if you look at the rewards and recognition, are the teams being really effective? And are you able to build high performance teams? Because that is then going to drive your business profitability. If you look at the productivity, what sort of resource planning are you doing? Are all your resources actually contributing well for the business growth? From an investment perspective, it's your culture and strategy, and what are the HR metrics that the business is actually tracking? And from a cost perspective, how are you keeping your employees engaged, and what sort of talent management is being done? So predominantly, this is what is the people wheel or the HR wheel is about. So an important thing, like, this little story that I gave you at the beginning on how people went ahead and, the business went ahead and started cutting the people and the people related costs. Now, what really happens is, if you were to notice the compensation or the salary that's being paid to the employees, it's not just a monetary value, because it has a host of emotions as well, right? Because your salary is something very dear to you, apart from what the money value it means, right? It has a host of emotions that go along with it. And this is applicable across levels. You could be the junior most or the senior most, but the compensation comes along with a lot of emotions that's being played. And therefore, understanding this human aspect and then playing accordingly from person to person, that's how a business needs to take decisions, not just blindly go ahead and cut costs. Now, many organizations in the business world, they tend to follow the bell curve and so on and so forth without really getting into details. And not just that, many times what happens, the KRAs and the KPIs are not clearly defined. So people are also sometimes lost, or, for lack of communication or lack of proper instruction, people just go about doing what they're doing without really measuring their own self, measuring their performance, or maybe there is no yardstick within the organization to measure the performance, a proper, well-guided, structured manner. And therefore, by not doing all that, and if there's nepotism or favoritism in the business, it's just that few people tend to keep growing in their career, while the best ones feel left out, they don't feel motivated, they feel left out, there's no inclusivity and stuff like that, and therefore the best in them does not come out. So they either leave the organization, or they are still in the organization and not really contributing for the growth of the business. And that's what makes compensation something very, very important. Along with that, an important factor is empathy. Let me share this again, real life example. This was in a friend's organization. One of their, the sales head, whatever, was of course having tremendous pressure during the pandemic to achieve the target. Now what happens? At that level, you want to push this pressure and the stress down to your people below you. And this is what this person also tried to do. But unfortunately, he did not display any empathy. So to one of his top performers in the team, he was just pressurizing him so much to perform. And this was during the peak of the pandemic. And it was at that time, this particular, the best performing employee, both his parents were severely down with COVID. They were in the hospital, and this guy was running pillar to post, trying to, get accommodation, get oxygen, and, he was really going through a lot of personal stress. And this manager, despite being aware that his parents were in the hospital and he was having such a challenging personal time, kept telling him to perform and, go, have you met your target? Now, obviously, this particular guy did not feel good about it. And he immediately resigned. He said, I do not want to work with such a person. So the business then suffers where the best performing employees tend to leave. And that's what makes empathy a very important factor. Of course, everybody is under stress, under pressure, but if you just take that moment's pause and see, am I doing what I'm doing? Is it the right thing? Right for my business, right for me, right for my team? So if people can just take that moment's pause and reflect and then take the necessary actions, that makes a whole lot of difference. And that's why I think it's commonly said, people do not leave jobs, but they leave the bosses, right? So what is, that comes down to the culture. What sort of organization culture is being built? Because a lot of culture makes the difference. Now, if supposing everybody in the organization lacks empathy and, they just only want the numbers and the results, and they don't care about other things. And if that is the sort of culture, well, that's a toxic culture. You'll have to see if that's the place that you need to be, right? So these are few aspects. So if the businesses can become a little more cognizant about what's happening in there, that makes a whole lot of difference. So then here we also spoke about the team effectiveness and high performance in teams, right? So you could be a great leader in the industry, but still there's no guarantee for continued success, because Your team needs to constantly perform, and only then the business grows. So when I say team, I'm talking about the entire team, right? Not just one or two individuals or not just one or two functions, but when everybody together works as a team. And that's what makes the team really effective in delivering the best business results. So let me give you a very small example out here. Now, this was a friendly sports match that was played. It was a handball match, right? There were two teams. One of the teams, the captain was a fitness trainer. So he was obviously a very fit person. And the other two people in his team were two veteran sports players, and one of them was a new player, new to the sport and not greatly a very fit person. So this was team A. The team B, including the captain, the other four of them were all just average players. None of them was like an exceptional player or anything like that. So for this friendly match, when people were looking at it with a lot of excitement, everybody was pretty convinced that it was team A that was going to win, because the captain was a fitness trainer, the other two are very fit people, they were veterans, whatever. So everybody thought, okay, this is like going to be surely the team A is going to win. But you know what happened? It was the other team that won, and with a huge difference. So what really happened? This team, though they had a lot of high performers, technically they were a lot better. Why is it that they didn't win? So if you were to look at the game, the few things that I observed was, what was it that team B did right? They were very quick, alert, efficient, and they were just focused on the goals, scoring the goals that they wanted, right? Plus, they had a good teamwork, the rapport, they were able to sync up well, they were proactive and had excellent coordination among themselves. And they were very smart in gauging the weakness of the other opponent team, and they started taking it to their advantage, because they had a new player who didn't really know how the rules of the game went and how what needed to be done. So they realized this particular weakness and started leveraging on it, right? And what was it that team A could have done better? They lacked the leadership, they lacked strategy, they lacked direction, and they were not really playing as a team. They were actually playing in silos. It was like each individual was trying to contribute by themselves. So the bottom line was, they were not functioning as a team. They were not, having that team spirit among themselves, and they were not learning from the mistakes, because they just seemed to be committing the same mistake every time. Now, while this is just a game of sport, if we can incorporate and look at these learnings and incorporate it in a business scenario, what does it really translate to? So a business needs to look, what are the team actions that are being taken by each team towards the business goals, right? Because each business has its goal, and we spoke about financial goals as well. So what are the steps and actions that are being taken? Where is the focus of the business? Because many times, many businesses, irrespective of whichever level, they just tend to get bogged down by the day-to-day operations, and they tend to lose focus on the larger picture, right? So where is the focus of the business? How is the business promoting team spirit and building a high performance culture? Because that becomes, again, very crucial for the business to succeed together. Because it's not just one person who can make a difference, but it's when people come together as teams, that's when they make the difference. And how is it the business is leveraging on the strengths of each player of the business, and trying to overcome and minimizing the weaknesses. So once a business is able to start focusing on these different aspects purely from a people perspective, then the dynamics would change. People would tend to put in their very best, and the business tends to gain. So that's why I say the financial success of the business is dependent on the leaders, because leaders are the ones who drive high performance, right? And high performance results in growth, which means higher business profits. So that's what makes it very important to have effective leadership teams in place, and they are able to drive and navigate the kind of high performance, have good leadership style, the behavior, empathy, vision, right? So many aspects of leadership, which is what will make them put an effective team in place, right? So on HR, we also spoke about some costs. So I would suggest the business can come up with like a template. So I have shared some templates in the book, and that is like, if let's say you're the HR head, you're in charge of the people function, what are the aspects you need to look into from a finance cost perspective? So I would suggest list down all the costs, the HR costs or the people related costs that you are in charge as a HR person, as a CHRO or HR head, whatever, list all of them down. So once you list them down, just see what percentage of the total HR cost. So in the book, I've given a hypothetical example. So I've said, let's say HR has a compliance consultancy cost, and that is about 5% of the total HR cost. So why is this cost required? So go and question it. So in this particular example, let's say the CHRO feels it's required because you need to be compliant with labor laws and other applicable laws, and therefore this cost is something that's essential and no negotiation on it. Okay, great. But is there any action that can be taken? So when they brainstorm together as a team, what do they realize? Said, currently this particular function is being outsourced. Now, if this role can be absorbed internally, then the costs can be halved. And only the legal opinions can be outsourced. So let's say in the HR team, there's somebody, a legal expert, or maybe they want to recruit somebody who are with a legal background, maybe even a fresher or somebody with 3 to 4 years experience to manage the basics, and then go to an external vendor only for the more important things. And, just if you want a formal opinion and so on and so forth, then they felt that instead of outsourcing the entire function, just, outsourcing a part of it will create a win-win situation. So therefore, by analyzing each and every line item of the cost, that could give you a lot more better insights into what is happening. Similarly, if you were to look at employee engagement, right? Now, employees, apart from, of course, the rewards and recognition, apart from the salary, everybody wants to create value. They want to bring in more value to the business, do something that's meaningful, something that they enjoy, right? So are all these aspects being addressed? And apart from that, how is the business breaking monotony of the business, of the employees? Because what sort of employee engagement activities is the business offering, right? Maybe getting them to work with a coach, or maybe getting an external motivational speaker to ensure the morale of the employees is kept high, right? What are the different things that a business can do to upskill them and then make them feel good, right? You have this good place to work, great place to work, and all of that. So how is it really translating, and what sort of employee experience is the business providing to the employees? Because that really helps the employees to perform better, and they're also quite gung-ho about the whole thing. So these are like the subtler aspects that the business can also pay attention to. And of course, what sort of culture, what sort of strategy. So I've given some examples in the book, right? So that is predominantly on the HR function. So maybe I'll take a pause in case anybody has a question, or would you like me to proceed? I'd like to check with all of you.
We can take a few questions right now. We had a few. So, till now we have this, we've had a really great insight, ma'am. I am hoping that everyone has noted down the cognizance of what they've received till now, because it is very seldom that it happens that someone of your experience and your knowledge comes in, explains us the very detailed and very smallest of things that make such big differences. So I hope everyone's taking notes, and you guys can send your questions in the chat box as well, which we'll read out. But right now, my co-host Trutil will take up the first question.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, Manya. Good afternoon, ma'am. It was a pleasure to hear from you. Your book, Where's the Moolah, seems really interesting. My question to you, ma'am, is that the book starts with pivoting on finance. You did give a brief about it, but could I please request you to, elaborate it a little further?
Right. So, Krital, yes. So, like I mentioned to you, understanding growth and then setting the kind of financial goals that the business wants to achieve. Now, if you were to notice in all of this, what is the underlying theme? It is finance, which is money. End of the day. That's why I said a business exists to make money. So is like, again, let me share this real life example. A client of mine, when I was asking him during our coaching conversation, what is it that you want your business to achieve? He says, the only thing I want my business is to make money. Right? While a business exists to make money, you can't say that's my only goal. And how are you going to go about achieving it? Right? What are your goals? You can't just blindly say, oh, yes, I want to grow without specifying the quantity. Right? And once you've specified, how is it you're going to achieve? Otherwise, you're just building castles in air. And therefore, if you notice for all of this, for any business, when you talk about performance, right, it is financial performance. I mean, it boils down to financial performance. When you talk about top line growth, bottom line growth, it is all revolving around numbers, the financial aspect of the business. And therefore, that's what makes it important to see how the business is actually pivoting on finance. That's why I meant by pivoting on finance.
Yeah, thank you so much, ma'am, for your insights on that. Thank you.
My next question to you is that you have made an interesting link of human resource and finance. So what is the role of human resources on financial growth, and how, I understand when you told us that HR is an important and integral part of the institution, but when it comes to the finances and the real bottom line profit, as we were talking about and in the beginning, then what role do they play when that becomes very crucial to a business?
Yes. So that's why I deep dived into the HR function, the people function, because, remember when I shared the HR wheel, the back wheel of the people function, like you notice, there are so many different aspects, from the cost to the rewards, the productivity, the kind of investment that needs to go in. So if you look at all of these are all, again, finance, the number oriented. If you look at the base, the cost is a function, right? Rewards and recognition is also something that's important for a business. The productivity, that's what is going to enable the business to grow further. Now, look at the great resignation that's been happening. Now, the great resignation, the cost of attrition for the business is humongous, right? Because you have a cost of recruitment, and then you're spending on the training and development of the people. And then just when they are fine, they want to say tata, bye-bye and go, right? So it again means you're going back to the cycle. You again need to scout for the right talent, start developing, training them, and then, it's a never-ending cycle. So all this does come with a cost. And apart from the cost, it's, the learning curve is also there. And then it's also, there is some knowledge sharing by the existing team or the previous. So if you look, there's so much of time and effort that goes in there, apart from the money factor as well. Right. So all of this will definitely have an impact on the business. And when I say business, it affects the business productivity, which means your business growth is not the way it is meant to be, and which, when translated, goes back to your financial performance. So that's why I said it's like the business wheel, right? Each of these are the wheels of the business, and each of these wheels have a role to play in the growth of the business. And if you notice, all of them are linked with finance.
Definitely. Thank you so much, ma'am. Krital, would you like to take up the next question?
Yes, Manya. Thank you. Ma'am, our next question is, you have mentioned business starts with strategy and it ends with financial gains. So can you please elaborate on that?
Yes, sure. So if you notice a business, like I said, you can't just say, I want to grow. You should grow, you need to grow, you need to have your goals, but what is the strategy that's being adopted to get that growth, right? So it all starts with strategy. So unless you have the strategy in place on how you want to go about achieving what you want the business to achieve, it's not really going to succeed in the long run. And why is it that you're having this strategy to grow? Because of course you want to give the best to your customers, you want it to translate to business growth, to grow higher and higher. And why? Because you'll have better bottom line, and that is your financial gain, right? So if you notice, this is like a circle. One thing leads to the other, and in the end, it starts with strategy. It has an impact on all the aspects of the business, but the ultimate is the financial gains, because you're answerable to your stakeholders and your shareholders, right? So that's why it's important for the business to really perform. Now, having said that, people think strategy is like, oh, something big, something major, you need to have the best person to formulate the strategy for my growth, so on and so forth. But let me give you this, a very small real life example. This is about a pushcart vendor, right? This guy, he used to sell vegetables, pushing his cart, just on the roads. And he was desirous of growing his business. He wanted to set up his own vegetable mart. But of course, he did not have enough money at his disposal. So when people think of strategy, they think, oh, I need to have a lot of money. But it need not be the case, because in this particular example, I'll tell you what has happened. Considering his financial strata, he could not even get loans. And there was nobody willing to invest in a business like a pushcart vegetable seller. So what was the strategy he adopted to grow to the next level? So what he realized was, with so many high-rise residential apartments, many households, they did not even know that he had arrived selling these vegetables, right? They did not know what were his vegetables he was offering to them for the day. And he realized they did not even know the price, because most of them used to, go to these supermarkets and buy. But of course, he felt his biggest advantage was he had a price advantage, because his overheads were lesser, and therefore he wanted to reach out to more customers and, play up there. So what did he do? He had a simple jugaad that he practiced. And what was that? Every day in his mobile phone, he would record to say, whatever is it's potato, onion, tomato, cauliflower, whatever was the vegetable he was selling, he would record that and the price that he was selling for the day. Now, this mobile, he attached it to a simple loudspeaker. So every time he would come that way, this would kind of be automatically playing, and he could focus on the customer who was right there wanting to buy. And this messaging was used to reach the people even in the high-rise buildings. So as soon as they hear his voice through this loudspeaker, they know, okay, he has arrived. Okay, he's selling cauliflower or the broccoli, whatever he's selling, that's what I need. Oh, and his price is also reasonable, so let me go and get it, right? So he had planned itself. He knew which time to arrive in which area, and then how to tap into his customers. And by doing this, he slowly started to grow, and finally he managed to have his own small vegetable shop, right? So these are like very simple things that, it's not necessary you need to have a huge amount of capital or, very deep thinking into strategy. You can start by thinking very simply and actioning on simple things that will actually lead to better results for the business. Yes, so that's why I say, yeah, strategy becomes very important.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for demystifying this, a concept known as a strategy. It's an arcane concept which we all know, but then, it's not demystified. A lot of us do not demystify it. So yeah, thank you so much for demystifying it for us, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. This was really interesting. Very simple examples, helping us fathom so much more than what they stand for. So it's really great. We can have a break right now, and I would like Bija Associates to actually take a quiz, and then we can come back to all the rest of the questions with you. So
Thank you, Manya.
Thank you.
So wonderful insights by Sangeeta. It was really great. And the best is sharing the real life examples and sharing the how part of making money. That was more important, because everybody understands the language of money, right? Whether it's personal or it's about business. So thanks for sharing that. So now, as you have given so many insights, so let me check with the students what is that they have grasped from the last 20-30 minutes, what they have heard about. So I believe when initially you talked about, you are given an acronym, right? A favorite character of everyone, that is called Tom. So if I may know from the students who write it first, what the Tom stands for. So that's the quiz question. What Tom stands for? TOM. You need to specify all three.
Nice
Okay.
question, Pankaj.
One more. Okay. So it's by Chetan sir. Okay. So we got so many now. So the first one was Chetan sir, and if we talk about students, it is Vaishnavi Vani. So Vaishnavi is the winner. Sorry, Chetan sir, I'm not giving you as the winner. It's the Vaishnavi who has given a time frame objective measure. Congratulations, Vaishnavi. Thank you so much. Over to Manya.
Thank you so much, sir. Coming back to the discussion that we were having, Sangeeta ma'am, would you like to continue or should we continue with the questions that we have?
Sure. Please go ahead with the question.
Okay, so our next question is again from Kritil.
Yes, thank you, Manya. Ma'am, marketing is an expense, and one of the chapter titles is financial returns from marketing activities. So how can the function of marketing contribute to financial returns?
Right. So if you also notice, for each function, I have given the theme of the function. So for marketing, it is mindful message to the market through the right media, right? So I'm sure probably many of you are already marketing experts. So what exactly does the function of marketing do? It has to carry your message, the message of the business to the market, right? That's where your customers are. And how do you do it? Through the right media. So many times businesses just think marketing is an expense and therefore I don't want to spend so much money in marketing. But only when you market your services or your products, whatever it is, only then your customers will actually even know, okay, this exists, right? This is what I want. This is the product that I want. This is the service that I want. And you need to be on the top of the mind of your customer. So unless you're willing to do that, it becomes difficult to grow and get that market space and the market share that you want to. And that's what makes marketing a very important function for the business, because that really helps, because through your marketing you get your customers, and with your customers your top line grows, which then results in your better bottom line, right? So that's why I say the marketing actually contributes to better financial results. So if I were to just touch upon few aspects, let me give you this real life example. I don't know how many of you have heard of Karma, the music. I mean, it plays all the old songs, and yes, Shreya says yes, yeah, and it has in, I think, different languages, right? So it's a beautiful, I think it has over 5,000 songs or something like that, and people from the older generation, probably like my parents, your grandparents, and stuff like that, they just love it because it transports them to that era. So Karma, they were very clear. They said, this is my target audience, people who are born from, whatever particular year, who are currently maybe in their 60s, 70s, whatever. So they had defined who their customers are. And they realized each region, each state would have its own flavor of languages. So they started picking all the top songs, the film songs, the top hits of say 50s, 60s, 70s, whatever. And they compiled, I think, about 5,000 songs in each language or whatever. So that started to resonate deeply with the people of the older generation, because they found it very simple, like a radio, which was what they were used to in their growing up years, nothing so hi-fi like a smartphone or whatever to them. And therefore, this became a kind of an instant hit. So now if you were to look at it from a marketing perspective, right, they did not have a fancy launch. They did not spend anything huge on advertisements, right? So how did they go about? They just relied on audio vehicles. And they kept it very simple to the radio and the podcast, because they realized the majority of their target customers, whom they wanted to buy this, were all, radio listeners, or they were used to podcasts and stuff like that. And thereafter, once they created this hype, for which the cost was very minimal, thereafter, it just started spreading by word of mouth, right? So like, let's say a 70-year-old person, really loved it, then he goes and talks to his friend about it, right? Or maybe his son or daughter has realized how much they enjoy this and maybe told another friend, and they wanted to buy it for their parents or grandparents, whatever. And this way, this just started to grow. So when we say marketing, again, the message I want to drive is, it's not necessary you have to spend huge amounts, have a gala bash and a launch and all of that. Yes, those things are going to cost, but if you really want to save money, identify your USP, identify your target customer, ensure your product or service is actually reaching them. So in the case of Carvaan, it was more of a pull marketing than a push marketing, right? So you could resort to this sort of referral marketing. There's also, of course, digital marketing, of course, is very, very common, but yes, that can also become sometimes expensive. But again, I'd like to give you this real life example. Probably many of you know him. He is from the city of Pune, Puneet Rao, right? He's a fitness trainer. So during the lockdown, guess what? He earned 24 lakhs in 24 hours, right? I mean, isn't that like phenomenal? 24 lakhs in 24 hours. How is this even possible, right? His strategy was very simple. He had a lot of followers on Instagram and he did not really spend anything significant on marketing. So his marketing strategy was something very simple, and he just started to leverage on the huge followers that he had on Instagram. So he started offering some free online classes for 3 weeks just at the start of the pandemic. He started getting his customers hooked onto his workouts, and then he launched his online fitness course. I think that was like 2,000 rupees a month. And guess what? He had over 1,200 people who signed up for it. So, there's no location constraints. People from all over just started signing up. And within one day, boom, he just managed to reach the right kind. How? Simply through the digital marketing. So he was able to establish that connect with his audience, his customers, and like almost like a celebrity, right? So that's why I say it's not necessary you have to spend a lot of money. You'll have to just think and see, how can I do it differently? Similarly, the Facebook advertisement, in Facebook, probably all of you have heard of Slack, right? So that the way the messaging, the messaging to the market was really a very nice way, which caught the attention of many people. A very simple one-liner which said, what it feels like to sit in 25% fewer meetings. This was just the tagline of Slack. And this just made the trick, because this was such an attractive one, because meetings we know can really get boring. And, many corporates have these long drawn meetings. Some of them you're not even directly involved, and like half your productive time is gone in these meetings, right? So they just came up with this brilliant one-liner, and then just said, what if it's 25% lesser? And everybody's like, wow, okay, let's go for Slack, right? So your messaging is what makes it really very, very important. And then similarly, you need to be an outlier, right? Outlier in your thinking of the marketing. So again, this is a real life example. This was in the city of Madurai down south. And this was by a bootstrapped startup. It was called VE Clean. And what was their business? Their business was into toilet cleaning services for residences. Now they had set a target for themselves. They wanted 100 new subscribers within the next 30 days. So what did they do? How did they go about? They ran a marketing campaign for a community, housing community in Madurai. And their tagline, what was it? When was the last time you cleaned your toilet, right? And they undertook a challenge of cleaning all the toilets. And that community had, I think, over 400 households. And they said, in the next 24 hours, we are going to clean all your toilets. And they said, we're going to do it free. So people were more than happy. And in the 24 hours, they cleaned everything and they did a very good job of it. So what happened? They not only earned the goodwill, they had a better brand visibility. This was an excellent way to create a brand visibility. And guess what? They had 84 subscribers within one single day. What was their cost for this entire activity? It was just about 10,000 rupees. So by adopting this outlier sort of a marketing strategy, the business tends to gain. So, just thinking about these different ways how the business can go about doing it, and, ensuring you give the best to your business. Not necessarily you have to spend how much amount, but to see how the business can grow, and just where your thinking adds. Look around, there's inspiration all around. There are so many real life examples, different stories. Like, I mean, I just shared a few. Many are in the book, but even outside the book, there are so many. So it's just that one needs to fine tune and get themselves accustomed to see what needs to be done. So that is what I thought I should share about marketing. And yes, I mean, talking about marketing, I think in the book I have few more interesting examples on marketing. I think I've spoken about guerrilla marketing as well. So yeah, there are different things that are being mentioned. So yes, I hope you guys will read the book and get more insights.
Definitely, definitely, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Anya, do you have any further questions?
Yes, but before I begin with my next question, I would actually like to tell ma'am that, ma'am, the books behind you, they're making me really eager to get one of them at least, because all of them have been titled so intelligently, first of all. And already, Where's the Mullah got me really interested initially as well. And now, after your examples and the fact that you've told there are more such examples, I really want to just go and read it.
Thank you.
So
Thank you. In fact, I have a question in my private window which says, how did you come up with the title? So I, to be honest, I don't know. I was just thinking, during that time, and I realized everybody was, wondering, I mean, where is it? Like, where is, so I was actually contemplating between where's the moolah or no, where's the money, because I thought money can be like relatable by everybody. But then the publisher said, no, where's the moolah sounds really attractive. Let's just go with that. So I said, okay. So yeah, there's also one more interesting question that says, what part of the book did you have the hardest time writing? No, to be honest, writing is still okay because you have all your thoughts and then bring it down. But the most challenging part is the editing, because you have to do multiple rounds of editing, and you are doing so many rounds, and it's all what you've written. So sometimes it can get so easy to miss those edits. So I think that's a pretty challenging task. But I mean, I face this challenge for all my books. I mean, Glance at the Unknown, Get High, What the Finance, Where's the Moolah. So yes, this editing is something, because I'm worried that I might miss something while looking through the same script umpteen number of times.
On similar lines, I had a very small question that what do you think, first of all, which kind of books did you like writing more, the fiction or the non-fiction, and what do you want to write next?
Lovely. So the difference between a fiction and a non-fiction, I'll tell you from an author's perspective, is that in a fiction, you are the creator. You make somebody the hero, you make somebody the villain, you don't like somebody, you just kill them, move them out of you have the flexibility to do whatever you want. Like, you are the total creator. But in a non-fiction, you don't have as much flexibility because you can't deviate from the principles and the concepts, right? So you have to go by certain guidelines and then see within that, how can you make it more interesting and give more flavors to the reader.
Okay, ma'am. So I get it. I have to read the non-fictions first, and then once I'm done with that, I'll go to the fiction so that I can read the out of the world stories. Thank you so much, ma'am. One last question, which will probably even conclude it. Ma'am, what are the key financial aspects, if you have to summarize into these key aspects, to focus upon the betterment of business profitability?
Key, what does that say that again? Key?
Key, also key financial aspects to take upon for better business profitability.
Sure. Now, how many of you are aware of the 5 elements? Like, it's called Panchabhutas, right? What is it? Your space, fire, air, earth, and water, right? These are the 5 elements of nature. Now, I have equated that to the 5 elements of finance. So what is it like? So when I say space, what do you think? Like, it's vast. There's no end. There's no limit, right? So I say the revenue, the business revenue also needs to be vast, right? There need not be any particular limit to how your business is growing. So I equate the space with your top line, the business growth, your top line, which is your revenue. So if you were to run a business, you need to see how, what are the different ways I can really grow my revenue, and not just be thinking in just one particular direction. But of course, ensure like, you're stabilizing a particular line of the function or the business, and then seeing how you can expand. So the message is, don't try to restrict yourself. See how you can broaden. When I say broaden, growing the number of customers, maybe related product services. I mean, there are umpteen different ways, but how can your revenue, your top line be like the space? The second element is the fire. Now, what do they say? Do you have the fire in your belly, right? You really do you have that urge to achieve, right? So if the business does not meet sufficient margins, your business is on fire, right? So that is why I equate margins to fire. So if for your business to succeed and like grow and do really well, you need to have the necessary margins, which is your fire element. So think, how can you achieve better margins for the business, right? That's the fire. Third is the air. What is air? I mean, can we be without air even for very few minutes? No. Similarly, for a business cannot be without cash for long, right? Because cash is king, cash is oxygen. That's how what I say, because a business needs money, right? Business thrives on the money. So ensure that business does not have any cash shortages, and the business is cash positive. When I say cash positive, the processes that are involved in running the business ensure it gives a cash positive result to the business. The fourth element is the earth, right? So earth is resources, and that is what I equate to the business as well. So a business as well needs umpteen resources, right? Like you need your capital, your assets, technology, your customers, so on and so forth. And only if you have all these resources in place can your business succeed really well. So therefore, you need to nurture and nourish these resources of your business for your better business growth. And last element is, of course, water. Water, the most essential one. And what do I mean by water is your team, your people, right? Like I already stressed on the importance of having importance of people in the business, right? So your team are the ones, they are the ones who develop the operational efficiency of the business. The decision makers, the negotiators, right? The people who actually contribute from an operation perspective, everything, it's the people. So they are the key to make or break your business. And therefore, like how we cannot be without water, business cannot be without people. And even if you're a solopreneur, you are the person, right? Your business is different from you. So even if you're the solopreneur, you are the person running the business. So that's what makes the human resources or the team the most important factor. So businesses would be good if they start thinking on, how they can maximize the potential of these 5 elements of the business and what sort of strategy they need to adopt to grow these 5 elements, and how is it the business can actually leverage on these elements so that the business gains. So that is what I thought I should share.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Ma'am, this has been a very, and I think when I say this, everybody in the audience will agree with me that when I say that this has been a very beautiful journey from Tom to the 5 elements of businesses that you have explained, and with every single example that you've told us, with every single simple concept that you've tried to explain in the simplest manner, it's been a really good journey, and I'm sure we are all hooked on to Where's the Mullah exactly. So this was just amazing. Thank you so much. We wouldn't have fathomed any of it without you today, and it's just the best.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm delighted to hear this from all of you.
Thank you, ma'am. And moving forward, I'd like to ask you to share a few thoughts of what did you feel like to be at the Authors Arena with us?
Oh, I was really delighted. I was very excited. So as soon as Prakash invited me, I said, yes, I would definitely be there because I love interacting with students. And of course, for any author, it's such a delight to, speak about their book, because to an author, a book is like their child, right? You go through so much of hardship and labor in bringing the book out. So it's like another child. So definitely a big pleasure. And I love sharing my knowledge and, speaking. So that way it's definitely great. I would love all of you to read these books, and of course my other books as well. Get High is actually to coach yourself on high performance. It's an activity-based book. It has a lot of tips and tricks on how you can get better at whatever you're doing. And of course, What the Finance is more practical from a finance perspective. Read all these books and let me know your thoughts on these books. That'll be amazing. And I'm also open to connecting with all of you on social media. You can find me as the Gain Enabler, LinkedIn. I have a YouTube channel as well, so I keep sharing nuggets on finance, high performance, leadership development, strategy, and stuff like that. So feel free to subscribe, stay in touch. Instagram, whatever, whichever medium works for you, I'm there. But you can look me up as the Gain Enabler.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I'm glad. I'm sure the audience had a lot of fun. Everyone can just give another round of applause for ma'am for everything that we've heard today and learned today. So thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I enjoyed the session. You were a great host, Manya. Thank you. Once again, thanks to Pankaj and Prakash and to the management team of Indra School of Business Studies.